I am a really, really big fan of private nexus letters and DBQs. And even though I am a big fan, I still advocate for veterans to not use these for their initial claims. And that's what I'm going to explain here in this video today. And to get this out of the way, is it wrong if you submit a private nexus and a private DBQ with your initial claim? That answer is no, it is not. In fact, these will really make your claim strong, assuming that they are good and complete nexus letters and DBQs. But to give the impression that these are needed is simply not true, and it would be wrong to give that impression. Okay, I'm going to explain why that's not true. So first off, to make the nexus, okay, nexus just can't come from nowhere. The provider must have the evidence, whether that is a private nexus or a CMP exam, there must be evidence. No evidence, no nexus. No diagnosis, no nexus, okay? The evidence from service and the current diagnosis is needed to establish the nexus for direct service connection. And if you think about it, if you have the evidence, meaning the in-service event, and you have the current diagnosis, logically, you would think a CMP examiner could make the nexus. And in fact, the overwhelming majority of veterans with service connection do not use a nexus letter. I didn't even use a nexus letter, and yet I am still a big fan of nexus letters for the appeals process, not necessarily for the initial claims process. But you can, if you want, to go on the fully developed route. You do not have to at all, and certainly not needed. It's my opinion that veterans should consider using a nexus letter and a DBQ once that claim is denied, and you will see these used as evidence in supplemental claims and, of course, the Board of Appeals. The Board of Appeals is the only time that I would, at least in my opinion, say a nexus letter is required, because you need everything in your favor. Stack the deck in your favor when you go to the Board of Appeals. And that's a very, very small number of claims. So generally speaking, you never need to consider one. Another reason is because the VA is notorious for not acknowledging fully developed claims, and this gets under my skin more than anything. Meaning, you can submit a truly fully developed claim, and the VA will treat that claim just like any other VA claim, and they will schedule your CMP exam with a nurse practitioner or someone else. And although you have a good and complete nexus letter and a good and complete DBQ from your physician, this is, in my opinion, one of the top 3 things that's wrong with the VA disability claims process. The VA will encourage veterans to submit fully developed claims. However, in the same breath of the FTCs, they don't mean anything if the VA is not going to acknowledge the fully developed claim. And really, when a veteran submits a fully developed claim and they have a CMP exam scheduled, it's my opinion that the VA is bound. They should be legally bound to tell the veteran why they're having that exam scheduled specifically, right? Not beating around the bush, not being vague, saying we need more evidence. No, what is it that you need? Okay, specifically, what is it that you need that I don't have? But that's not going to happen, right? No one listens to the YouTuber downstairs in his basement. Then that comes into question, do I attend my CMP exam or not? And that is a very dark rabbit hole that I'm not going to even speak about, because you're going to get varying opinions on that. However, using a private nexus and a DBQ in appeals for supplemental claims are really when you see these come in clutch. Now, if you have the money just laying around and you don't mind the price of private nexus letters, and you want your claim to be as strong as possible, then go right ahead. You're an adult. You can make your own decision. It's just my opinion, okay? I'm telling you, they're not needed whatsoever, and to give that impression would be wrong. I grew up not having that much money at all. We weren't, poor as a mindset. I grew up where we had clothes on our back and food on the table when we went to school, but we certainly didn't have disposable income. And if that's not you as a veteran, I could see how you could really feel the pressure of wanting to buy a Nexus, but you can't afford it. And I'm telling you, You don't need one at all. Okay. There's one thing that will get your claim through for service connection. That's your evidence from service and your current diagnosis. It's not going to be your accredited rep that you use. It's not going to be the company that you use. It's simply your in-service event and your current diagnosis. That's what I mean when I say evidence. No, you don't need to submit the nexus with that initial claim. The examiner will make that. And the process does work. Okay. 7 million veterans would not be service connected if the process did not work. Is it perfect? By all means, no. And if you watch the channel, you know my feelings on the VA's process, VA disability claim process. So, yes, in my opinion, private nexus letters and DBQs are dumb for initial claims. But if that's what you want to do, it'll certainly make your claim strong, and I'm not going to argue against that. Now, keep in mind, without evidence, the nexus cannot be made in the first place. I see a ton of veterans pay for nexus letters that really lack the evidence, and you're essentially just throwing away your money at that point. And for the record, the only reason the industry exists for private nexus letters and DBQs, which are not claims consulting companies, do not mix those together. You have IMO, nexus letter, DBQ providers over here. Then you have claims consulting companies over here. They're totally separate, okay? But it's because of contracted CMP examiners. CMP examiners suck so bad, they've created this entire market of private medical opinions or independent medical opinions. So I don't care if the VA is reporting a 97% approval rate on CMP exams. We know that CMP exams and CMP examiners are absolutely terrible as a whole. Yes, I'm sure that there are good CMP examiners, but I would argue for every good examiner, you have 10, if not hundreds more that are really, really, not good, for lack of a better way to describe that. So there is definitely an argument for submitting the private nexus and the DBQ with your initial claim, but this is just my opinion. You will really see those come in clutch for supplemental appeals and, of course, the board. Now, food for thought. If you submit a private nexus and DBQ with your initial claim and you are denied, I always recommend a higher level review almost in every single case, no matter what. Regardless, veterans need to start submitting evidence-based claims instead of clogging up the system and throwing claims at the wall to see what sticks. At least as likely as not, really stupid, mediocre t-shirts in many, many colors. If you want to buy those on Amazon, you can. The link will be below in the description. And thank you very much.